right, dealing with natural selection and evolution, one of the key things we talk about is how do we put all these groups of animals and populations into different levels? We call that science classification because we like to put things and sort them into groups because it makes sense for us. Are these really natural things that happen in nature? Not necessarily. This is our way of kind of dealing with groupings and knowing who's related to who and sort of families and what tree belongs here and what group goes here and things like that. So when we talk about classification, the man we give credit to is Carolus Linnaeus. He's a Swedish botanist who went around Europe and basically figured out, I need to figure a way to make sure that I know what plant in one part of Europe is the same in a different part of Europe, because people gave different names to them. So a plant that was called, say, wolfsbane in one part of, say, Sweden and went to Greece, it might be a different plant, whereas the plant in Sweden was a medicine, the plant in Greece was a poisonous plant. And so people got confused over names. He came up with a common system. He wasn't the only one. There were other people like Lamarck from France who tried to come up with their own system. This didn't work. He came up with one that worked really effectively well. And he decided that he needed a common language most people in Europe understood to do this, so he basically decided everything's in Latin, because people in church knew Latin in Europe, so he said Latin will be it. So that's why today we still use Latin as our scientific system for classification. So Linnaeus lived from 1707 to 1778, and he was very active. He described a lot of plants, and he went through and made sure which ones were which, and the ones that were duplicates of different names in different parts of the world, he tried to give them the same name so that people would have a commonality to it. He came up with what's called binomial nomenclature. Every organism has two names in his naming system. We call the genus and species name. Humans, for example, Homo sapiens. You know, your cat would be Felis domesticus. You know, your dog is Canis lupus domesticus, the third part, but a little different. Levels of taxonomy, they follow a certain category. When Linnaeus did it, he had a certain levels that he went with because he didn't know a lot of the new things in microscopy that had come out yet. So he starts with not this level. He doesn't know domain. Today we say there's a domain because we realize he didn't go far enough. We had to add what he did, and even today we keep adding more things to it. So domain is the big levels, the biggest of all the big levels. So it's going to be things like prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and even within those, some small domains that are broken up. The next one that he did was the first one he saw. His biggest one was called kingdoms. Below kingdoms are phylums, then classes, orders, families, genus, and species. Sometimes there's a mnemonic for it. You say King Philip came over for good soup. There's all kinds of ones like that that people use to remember the order. Because I'll say, did King Philip came over for it. Here's an example of how this works. I'm going to show you how it shows our relationships to each other based on those kind of things for natural selection. So lion and human. For a kingdom, we both are in Animalia. We both are in the phylum Chordata because we both have notochords. We both are in the class Mammalia because we're both mammals. The orders, however, are different. They're in Carnivora. We're in Primate. Their family is Felidae, or the cats. We're in Hominidae, or humans. Their genus is Panthera. Ours is Homo, which means man. And then Leo, which is lion. And Sapien, which means thinking, because we are the thinking or wise man, by our Latin name. Family trees are how we describe how these things are related, utilizing classification. So one of these is called a phylogeny, which shows who's related to who evolutionarily. Who came from what group? How are they related? Based on the information we have, we utilize these things to create phylogenies. It could be all kinds of information that can do this. So this right here is the phylogeny of cranes in the world. Who's related to who? It looks kind of like the basketball brackets you get for the NCAA. You'll notice there's a lot of these like this. Obviously, black crowned cranes and gray crowned cranes are black crowned cranes and gray crowned cranes are both closely related. Whereas the hooded crane is more closely related to the black-necked crane than it is to the whooping crane, even though they are related, but it's more closely related to that one. It's these family trees of who's related to who. Another sample of this was called cladistics. This assumes something a little different. It says, I'm assuming there's a common ancestry and I'm going to use it based on traits I see. The problem with this is sometimes you have to make assumptions on that trait is equal to that trait. But we learned things like homologous traits and things like that, they can be a little problematic. Analogous and homologous can throw these things off. So we basically use what's the least number of things I need to make the assumption that they're related. That's probably the best answer. So here, This is basically dealing with cold-blooded versus warm-blooded, or poikilotherms versus homeotherms. Here, these two are both quote-unquote warm-blooded. All the rest of these are vertebrate animals that are cold-blooded. So it makes sense to say, well, they must be the closest relatives to each other because they're both warm-blooded. We now know that's not actually accurate. These guys should be separated and on different parts of brains. It actually occurred twice through other common intermediates, but they're not directly the most closely related to each other. Birds are actually more closely related to a lot of the crocodilians and dinosaurs than they are to humans. So there is actually a branch break-off there. It's based on what's called Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a philosophical thing that all of you have used at some point in time. It's named after William of Ockham, who was an English philosopher, who said the simplest explanation is probably the best one. Is it always the right one? No, but it's probably the best one. That's a way of determining when I have multiple choices and I don't understand which one's probably the right answer, or which one's probably, I'll go with what's the best answer, is probably going to be the one's the simplest answer. Again, not always the right answer, but it's usually going to be the best answer for the situation. This shows you another one of these cladograms of Dinosauria, where you can see the birds are related to some of the ones up here.